What's up, everyone? Mark Garman here. I have a very special guest today. He's coming all the way from Australia, all the way from Aussie. Yes, yes. His name is Caleb Rixon. He actually does something similar to myself. He started his own network to help others who are gone through traumatic events. I'm going to go ahead and let him explain a little bit about that. So without further ado, here is Cal.
Hello.
What's up, Cal? How's it going, brother?
Oh, look, I'm good, my friend. I've got my water ready. I've got my coffee. Just did a workout.
Yeah. So over there, it's what, 11 o'clock?
It's 11 a.m. on Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, here it's 6 on Thursday, 6 p.m. on Thursday.
6 on Thursday. Bring it on.
Yeah.
We are connected.
We are connected. The power of internet, right?
For sure. It's a powerful time to be alive.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So why don't you go ahead and give a lot of our community already knows who you are, but
okay.
So why don't you go ahead and give the community a snapshot of who Cal is?
A snapshot of who Cal is. Well, thank you, Mark. Yeah, so I'm Cal. My full name's Caleb. But my family and my friends call me Cal, so please feel free to do so. I'm 35 and I am from Melbourne in Australia. And yeah, I'm a creative kind of dude. I've been sort of in the creative world for, pretty much all of my life. But yeah, I guess part of how we've connected is that I had my stroke, a major brain hemorrhage 11 years ago.
Yeah.
Just when I turned 24. And yeah, I mean, I can definitely go into that experience and how that's kind of helped point, give me some direction and things to grab onto to sort of become the person that I am now.
Yeah, but we'll jump into that in a little bit. Yeah. So you said you live in Melbourne and you're 24 and you had a stroke 9 years ago, right?
Yeah, well, I was 24. I'm 35 now. So I had my stroke 11 years ago.
Oh, 11 years ago. Okay.
That's all good. And yeah, when I was 24, so 3 days after I turned 24, I had the hemorrhage.
Man, terrible birthday present, right?
Yeah, definitely a birthday surprise that I hadn't experienced up till then.
So, I mean, it's kind of like right after your birthday. So, I mean, what do you recall doing when you had your stroke?
So at the time, I had just graduated from a university in Australia, a big performing arts university, and I was living in Sydney, which is another sort of big city in Australia on the east coast. And yeah, I was living in Sydney, working as an actor, so giving it my best to get to the Tony Awards kind of deal. But I had an agent, like a performing agent in Sydney, and I was living. I had a partner at the time, and he was also a performer. So we were living together. I was about to start I just got my big break in the national tour of Chicago, the musical.
Oh, wow.
So I guess in sort of US terms, that would be, sort of the Broadway-ish vibe of that. So I did a show called Altar Boys, which is another US show that came to Australia. And yeah, I'd sort of just landed this spot in this big show, and was super, super, super excited, and also terrified of what was to be, because I felt like, it's there's a lot of demands in the show, and I think I'd been training my whole life for it, but still I think that sort of level of almost expectancy, and doing a show 8 times a week, and it being such a big glitzy show was awesome but terrifying. But yeah, no, I was training for that, so I was in preparation for beginning rehearsals for that. I was working out at the gym in Sydney, in a packed gym. I don't know if you've done a pump class or anything, those sort of cardio weights classes.
So it looks like I do cardio, bro.
Oh, hey, your determination, you can do anything, my friend. You do. I feel like you look like you do the weights. You look like a strong dude.
Yeah.
So this was
ion.
What'd you say?
Pump the ion.
Yeah, bump the ion. So I was pumping the iron, but also trying to pump up the jam, pump it up, pump.
Right.
It was feeling a bit more. It was a little bit more Olivia Newton-John than The Rock or Arnie, but I was doing that sort of stuff, and in the middle of the very start of one of the classes, I felt a massive burst behind my left eye, and I thought my eye had fallen out.
Wow, it's that big of a burst, huh?
Yeah, like a real smack, like with a cricket bat or a baseball bat to the back of my head, out of nowhere. Wow. And then it's a complex tapestry of what happened next for about 25 minutes to half an hour, as I was conscious and cognizant of what was going on. But there was some pretty amazing sort of things that happened, in terms of there was an ICU nurse at the gym, people with their first aid, people identified aneurysm very quickly in that first sort of 25 minutes, which was really fortunate for me. I honestly just was like, this is so embarrassing. Like, I'm just pushing it too hard, trying to do let's get physical. Physical. So I was totally thought, because up to that point in my life, the only experience I'd had, which, you might relate with, is I'd only had a cold, really. I'd had some medical things happen to me in my life, but I think largely the common cold is something that, it sort of happens and then it's over.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, I'm dehydrated and I just need to sleep, or I'm dehydrated, I need to drink water. But then when I tried to drink some water, it just went all over me, and I was like, how do you swallow?
Oh, really?
Yeah. And that was probably the beginning of the trajectory of it really spiraling into, this is something that's not, this is dehydration. This is slowly, my body shut down, being able to swallow, being able to stand, being able to balance, being able to be upright. And eventually, when I was telling all of this to the paramedics, I was explaining, I was at the bench and my eye, I thought it had fallen out, but it hadn't. But, I think I'm just dehydrated. I remember him looking to my partner at the time, and he said, what did he just say? And I remember then hearing and hearing my voice play back in my head.
Yeah.
And realizing that I was slurring and just going, what is going on?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they kept me really calm, but then got me into the ambulance. And once they turned the sirens on, they tried to keep me awake, but I fell unconscious and then was in a coma, and was then in the ICU for a bit over 5 weeks.
Wow. How long were you in a coma for?
That's a bit of it's kind of like not the Hollywood version. I wish I could go 3 days and then I woke up and I remembered everything. It just wasn't. I was induced, so
Yeah.
so they were pulling me in and out for largely for ICU, which is 5 weeks. I don't remember that, but a lot of that after, say, the first week, I was responding through pinches and flickers of things. But then there's a lot of documentation when they couldn't get responses for entire days, and they were really concerned about my left-hand side because I'm left side affected. So, I can do stuff now, but
You got the jazz fingers still.
So
You got the jazz fingers still.
Exactly. I was like, through hell or high water, I am getting on stage. Yeah. So I think the thing is really that early stage for me, which feels like a lifetime ago now, was actually a lot for my body to experience because I had pneumonia and septicemia and golden staph and meningitis as well. So I had a very challenging physical experience, but really the people that had to deal with that experience were obviously the health professionals that were helping keep me alive, but it was my family going through watching and trying to help and
trying to cope with it themselves, because you're not the only one affected by it. They're so let's go ahead and say hello to everyone that's saying hi real quick.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so we got Naomi saying hi.
Hey, Naomi.
And go ahead. You do it, Cal.
Oh, cool. So I'm saying Naomi. I'm like, hey, Nay. I just decided. I hope you're okay with that, Nay. Farron, is it Farron? And then Don. Awesome. And there's peeps that Nay and Don know each other. George is a fellow Aussie, which is awesome. Hey, George. Yeah. And then is it Salud?
Yeah.
Aloha from Hawaii.
There you go.
Hello, gang.
Yep.
It's nice to be with you.
Yep. Yeah, so you can go ahead, like if they jump in and say anything, go ahead and interact with them, Cal.
Cool. Yeah, feel free if you want to drop me any questions or anything that I can.
Exactly.
Yeah, please let me know and I'll give it a crack.
There you go. Any questions for Cal? Drop them.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
Yeah. So as we were saying already, the stroke not only affects us as a person, but it deeply affects our family.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I don't know if you've seen the show where I talked about how it affected my mother. My mother turned to alcohol.
Okay.
She became an alcoholic from it. So it does deeply affect the family. So how did your family cope with it all?
I think it was a very. There's kind of probably no simple way to explain it. If I was to sort of condense it, I would say through a huge amount of attention and compassion and resilience, they had to navigate a really challenging situation because I did almost pass away a number of times. I've got 3 other siblings and I'm the youngest, so I guess there's that probably natural the baby of the family, that's a lot of. So they had to, essentially my mum essentially had to move states to come and stay in what was my bed, my ex-partner and my bed, so that she could basically be there whilst I was on life support and help me and my body and the team sort of, work hard to get through. But yeah, with a lot of, I think, sorry, to answer your question, I think through a lot of a real huge amount of optimism and positivity, a lot of reinforcing of positivity, particularly spearheaded by my mum. I know, though I wasn't conscious, I know that there was a huge amount of support for me, which I'm, completely so grateful for, and feel forever like kind of indebted to how that spearheaded my journey. But it became a thing called Camp Rixon, like, because the hospital was just filled with, filled with people. So but my mum really championed this notion of, if you were struggling, that's totally fine. Just don't bring it into the room, because his body is doing a lot, and he needs as much strength and positivity through this. And so I'm very grateful for that.
Awesome. Yeah, one of my aspects that I harp on, when I speak to people is PMA, which stands for positive mental attitude.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and that helps a lot. When you're in the mindset and you suffer a traumatic event, and you have the positive mindset, the positive mental attitude. That helps a lot getting through what you're going through.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I harp on the most.
Yeah.
Because you have that negativity around you, and it just goes to show that your mom, believes in that as well. You have that negativity around you. It's just going to bring you down. It's going to bring your progress down.
Yeah. I think that negativity is as powerful as COVID-19.
True that, huh? Speaking of that, how are you guys doing out there with that over there in your area?
I know that Australia in general, so we're in lockdown, but we're doing, I think we bunkered down quite early. So as far as the media is reporting, and from sort of our chief medical officer and stuff like that, as far as I know, we're in the flattening of the curve. I think we've successfully made a real flattening. So I think that's a really good thing. But obviously, I think we all know that this is a fluid thing, and it's not like it's going to go tomorrow. So I think we're in it for the long haul.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think we're doing, given our numbers, and I think the society's attitude in general, it's taken a little bit to get there, but I feel like we're sort of now in it, and probably in it for the long haul. But I've got a lot of hope.
Yeah. Over here in California, our governor, he comes in and talks almost every day.
Yeah.
And he says that we're still peaking. Yeah. We're not hitting the flattening of the curve yet.
It's a powerful pandemic. It's it's a strong thing.
For sure.
Yeah.
And
y'all.
So we're gonna jump into your rehab a little bit.
Yeah.
So what trials and tribulations do you remember that you faced? Like, what was the hardest part of your rehab, to where you like almost felt like giving up, but you continue to push through? Like, what? So actually, let's rewind a little bit. So when you had your stroke, you said like you went to, talk a little bit and it just mumbled. So when you had your stroke, did it affect, if you said it affected your left side, like, did you have to learn how to walk all over again? Like, how did it happen? Like,
so I had a brainstem stroke, or a brainstem bleed. I had a grade 5 subarachnoid hemorrhage. So that sounds like a bit of jargon, but basically that's just a major brain hemorrhage, or major hemorrhage that bled into my brainstem, I should say. So for me, largely because it affected my brainstem and my cerebellum, So this is more in the back of my head. I've actually got some pics that I can put up at some point.
Yes.
But yeah, the main things that happened to me once I came to, I had lost my respiratory function and my ability to swallow, my ability to sit, stand. I had a paralyzed vocal cord as well. I was breathing through a trachea tube. You can kind of see it here. I also had a peg tube, so I won't show you the peg tube because I don't have the peg tube anymore. But the peg tube is a tube that comes out of your stomach to feed you, which some of our peeps on the line may have experience with. So I had a peg tube for just under 6 months, and so essentially, what I'd lost was the ability to walk, talk, swallow, see, and breathe. Because I also have a condition called diplopia, which is double vision. So because of where the brainstem injury is, it controls your respiratory function. It controls your swallow function, which is a thing called dysphagia. So I had dysphagia, and also I have diplopia, which means that I perceive two images. My eyes no longer align to create 3D depth perception or one image. So so I wear these glasses, and I've had 4 big surgeries on my eyes to help them over the last 11 years to help align them a little bit, but they're very intricate muscles, so I still need a fair bit of help with that. But you know, I'm doing well. Oh, thanks, Serena.
There you go.
I am. I'm very fortunate. We're all very fortunate to be on the line and alive.
100%. Yeah. So, and then you said that, you know, you had to learn how to walk and all that stuff all over again as well. So you start out with the pillar bars, and go ahead and explain a little bit about that.
So I started out with the belt. I call it the belt, where someone's going to actually help you stand. And
so
literally,
I was corrected last time because I called it. I said it looked like a karate type belt. That's what I called it. Right?
I reckon you bang on. I reckon that's a great one. Yeah, it's like a karate belt.
Right, but it's actually a gait belt. I was corrected last time. It's a gait belt. That's what it's called.
Totally.
Okay.
So I started out with that, and then I, was obviously using rails. I was using rails and things like that. But because I have a few different things with some proprioception, I have issues with proprioception. Gait belt. Thanks, Alud. And I also have the diplopia and biofeedback issues. So where my left side knows where it is in space. I don't have spasticity like a lot of us, but because of those things, I could, I remember my first steps between a doorway to go from one bit of the door to the next. But I did spend my rehab in a wheelchair, and then after that, I've sort of been through periods of walking and then having a walking stick, and now I don't use any support aids, but I've got a lot of bruises though, because I pass as a regular human that's just like doing stuff, but I bang into lots of walls at my house. I'm sort of like a pinball machine to get to the bathroom.
Right.
I'm down with that. I don't mind.
Hey, that's your new dance move, right?
Totally. Making it work.
There you go. So do you believe that your stroke has changed your life for the better? This is going to be a privy kind of into the next question.
Yeah, of course. I always had the mindset, and I think there's a lot of reasons why I had this mindset, but I really did always have the mindset that there was capacity within me to better the situation and use the situation. Though I couldn't literally see, but I couldn't see the future to go, oh, in 11 years, you'll still have diplopia and a vestibular dysfunction, and sometimes your swallow might not work, and you forget stuff, and blah, blah, blah.
What are we talking about?
Yeah, of course I didn't quite know that, but I think some really strong mental attitudes and shifts that I made early on definitely spearheaded the positive path to where I am now.
Yeah. So we have a question here for Don, from Don.
Yeah.
He said, how do you see the stroke survivor and your philosophy on life?
Thank you, Don. How do you see the stroke survivor? I guess I'm just going to sort of interpret that. How do I see myself as a stroke survivor or a stroke survivor in general?
I think,
I've got a little story on when I found that label really uplifting and really powerful and palpable to own my status as a stroke survivor. When I was in rehab, I remember getting my first day release, and which essentially gave me sort of like a day into an evening with my family and a couple of my loved ones. And my one of my best friends, he was there, and I remember we were playing Jenga, and I don't know if you know Jenga, the Jenga, yeah. And so as we're moving the blocks and trying to stack them, I was playing with my left hand because for me, doing that at the time was the hardest thing to sort of do.
Right.
And I had a big eye patch on and gauze and all that sort of stuff, and I couldn't talk, but I was a very determined person with my performing background. So I remember I was playing Jenga with my family and my posse, and I was playing with my left hand because, I mean, Jenga's hard enough as it is without having proprioception issues, like biofeedback impairment. So I was playing like sort of being like, oh my God, I'm going to get it in the thing. And everyone else played, I think, blindfolded with their left hand. And anyway,
cool,
yeah, it was really cool. But then when we were playing it, I was actually remarkably doing really well. Like I was so like precise, like being like, I'm going to get this block. And I was doing it, and I was about to remove a tile and put it on top to essentially like come probably close to winning the game kind of thing. And my friend was like bumped the table deliberately and was like, oh, oh wow, you didn't win kind of thing. And I was like, oh. And so basically what happened was I said to him, I said, oh, how do you feel ruining the first game of Jenga for a stroke victim? And everyone was like, ah. And I went back, and I remember wheeling up to my OT, my occupational therapist, the next day, and I told her that story. And she was like, yeah, she's like, yeah, that's a funny story. It's funny, Cal, I don't see you as a stroke victim. I see you as a stroke survivor. Do you think you're a stroke victim? And I was like, anyway, so I was, so I'm like, so I go on, I'm like, yeah, and I said, you ruined the first game of Jenga for a stroke victim. And she's like, yeah, I don't know, Cal, I don't see you as a stroke victim. I see you as a stroke survivor. And I think you could see yourself like that. And I was like, and it was like the biggest, like, I was like, oh my gosh, I have a choice. Like, I can choose how I frame this. And it was because the media had perpetuated this sort of, I think we hear a lot about trauma, and, especially 10 years ago with the, social media was around, but it was probably more in its infancy. I don't know. I feel like the things that we hear a lot are understandably when there's a tragedy or something that's really hard to deal with, there's often a cause and an effect. But I think the media perpetuates a lot of victim mentality and we have a very victim entrenched society. And I had an opportunity to take the framing and frame it myself.
Yeah,
and
flip the script.
Yeah, and so once I did that, that really got into my zeitgeist and really helped permeate my thinking, and I became pretty obsessed, to be honest, with that notion of like survivalhood and blah 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 blah, and
That's awesome.
that really has spearheaded the direction in which I've really carved out this position that I'm in now. There's been lots of bits along that journey of how I've done that, which I'm happy to go into, but it all happened because of that catalyst.
All right, that was so that's actually the next question. So let's jump into it there, brother. All right, so what's the purpose? So what's the purpose and the foundation of the Genyus Network? So go ahead and streamline what you're talking about into the Genyus Network, how you started it, and then go ahead and talk about the purpose and the foundation of it.
Absolutely, thank you. So basically, in that early time, it might actually help if can I share my screen?
Oh yeah.
I don't know if it'll work. Let's see if it gives it a crack. Let's see, gang. If you're on the line, get ready to feel fine. Here we go. We should all have a drink break.
I know. I forgot one. I'm feeling pretty parched.
Pretty parched?
Yeah.
I might have made you a bit hot under the collar when I was talking about all my performing days. I don't know. Sorry.
Pretty much.
So has that come through? Sorry, I'm not sure. I've just pressed share. Please grant access to share screen in screen settings. Might not work. I might, while you're doing that, I might just say hey to some people. Is that cool?
Yeah. I don't have anything here. Go ahead.
That's cool. So, Nay, you're your husband's caregiver in Washington State. Hello, and that's awesome. Rock on. You'd be a very fundamental person in his experience. Thank you so much for joining. Serena, yes, thank you so much. I am really lucky to be alive. So how do I say? Oh, yeah. Thank you, Don. That was such a good question about how do I see myself as a stroke survivor and my philosophy on life. Patience, positivity, persistence. I'm having a look.
All right, so that should be your screen right there. So
let's see. Is it? I can't see my screen. Let's do that. Let's see. Let's have a look. See if it comes up. Please grant access to screen and system settings. Don't know. System settings. Where's system settings?
We're trying to get some very important pictures up. Give us one
second. That's all right.
No, we're talking to the audience here.
Oh, yeah. No, I was going to say it might be, I don't know how, I'm not sure how your platform is going to grab my stuff, Mark. Is it your system settings or mine?
It should be yours because it's right here on the bottom of my screen. Your screen is right here. So, or you're not your screen, but.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's saying, please grant access to share screen in system settings. Okay, so I guess I need to go. If you're there, hang on. I'll show you some stuff so that you may relate with this. So my system settings, I'm having a look here. Feel free to go through the comments or something, Mark, while I try and grab this.
Yeah. See if we have any more on the back here. Naomi says that her husband still has a trach and an OEG tube. Not too sure what an OEG tube is.
Might be an endoscopic.
Maybe.
Settings.
Salute says that I'm assuming Thomas, her husband, is in physical therapy right now. Don wants to know how he joins the coffee club.
Oh, I'll put a link up. That's why I'm like, oh, we want to send the thingy. We want to be able to send it out. And let's go extensions and see. Can I screen share extensions? Details. It's on all sites. It's saying it's allowing allow in incognito. Let's have a look. Let's see if that. I'll see now if it does anything. Please grant access to share screen in system settings. It's not doing it, Mark.
That's all right.
That's all right. But I can just tell stuff if you want.
Yeah, go for it.
I can even do you know what? I can even do stuff on my computer here. Let's see if you can see. Can you see if I dim this a bit? Can you see that?
Yep.
Kind of? Yep. Cool. All right. I'll just quickly go to our website. It's www.genyusnetwork.com. So GenyusNetwork.com. So I'll just make sure. Oh, there we go.
I'm glad you're here too, Don. Naomi says that she's glad Don's here.
So I don't know if you can see that. So this is our website. So this is when you're like, don't know who the duty's on the front. What's that all about? Boring. So this is a little bit about, you can see here, this should hopefully go to my, if I press this again, should go to my story a bit. So you can see here, I've got some pictures that just might illuminate the journey a little bit better for some peeps. So I don't know if you can see. So this is quite early on for me, but I'm just trying to hold this and see if I can do this. Look at that. So it was at this point. So sorry, Mark, can you just tell me again, what was that question that you just asked of me?
So you were talking about how you're alluding to your therapy and what you're going through and your...
Yes, you're right. So I wanted to show you this photo. So this is kind of indicative of my experience in terms of, as you can sort of see here. So obviously I had the diplopia, which I've still got, but got a big eye patch on, breathing through a trachea, which I think it was was it Naomi that talked about the trachea?
I believe so, yeah.
And then the nasogastric tube and the memory things. So from this point, I guess I was incredibly isolated and felt very, I felt so alone in my recovery. I felt like, who else is like me? You know, when I went to an aged care facility to do my rehab, I couldn't see anyone else like me that reflected my experience. I felt like the median age is like 80, 85,
right.
And I'm 24. The next person was 38, and I thought that was really old at the time. I'm 35 now, so I now know it's not old. I thought, you know, like I felt like I was just starting my life. And I think at many points in our lives, we go through different stages. And I think at that sort of formative time of being in my 20s, I really, really desperately just wanted to see someone like myself, just to not feel alone and to know that the outcomes had variation, that the outcomes weren't based on statistic or symptoms. It was based on story. And when I went to, you know, moving on a bit, when I went to a young stroke support group, my first one, I remember us introducing ourselves by our symptoms and by our injuries. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm not grade 5 subarachnoid hemorrhage. I'm Cal. Like, I'm a human. who's got like wants and desires, and I want to have relationships and you know, build this identity that I've got. And you know, I wanted to figure out what the path forward was, not the thing that had just happened. Even though it's significant, don't get me wrong, it's such a big connecting point, but I think that it felt really, it was sort of drenched in sort of support as opposed to empowerment. And that really is probably the beginning of when I want to create a safe space where all of us who have been touched by life-changing trauma can feel connected and empowered and emotionally resilient through sharing our stories, not just our symptoms, and use narrative as currency as opposed to, you know, navigating with just diagnoses. So I guess my fight for gaining my own voice physically, because I'd lost it and I had a paralyzed vocal cord, that the thing that was so stifling about that wasn't the fact that I had lost my voice to speak with. Ironically, I thought that's what, well, obviously that is what mattered. But for me, it was the fact that I was a singer and I'd lost that ability to communicate through song. You know, and my thinking's changed a lot, but back then it was all about my identity, my perception of self, my self-worth, my own currency. And I think all of us have that version of how we interpret what our voice is and reclaiming it or finding it. And I really wanted to create a space where we could do that together and not feel that it was like some sort of therapy. Of course, it has therapeutic benefit, but support is the byproduct of empowerment. So essentially, what started out as Gen Y United Survivor Network, Genyus, I reached out to other survivors of stroke from around the world. And also reached out to, at the same time or a similar time, over about a week, I reached out to survivors of other experiences. So major motorbike incident, traumatic brain injury, spinal cord injury, you know, those other sort of burns events even, and realize that there's something that combines all of us, and it's not just the perceived tragedy or the loss, though that is a big part of it. It's actually about this deep need and this concept of rebirth and re-envisaging and repurposing parts of our lives and doing it together, leading the way through connection, as opposed to relying on our very needed health professionals to sort of do that work for us. So I started a video, then that went into a chat thread. That chat thread became a page, that became a group, and now we're a community group. We largely interact on Facebook. We've got just over 1,000 members, but from over 56 countries. So cool. It's been a real natural thing. We haven't tried to bring anyone on. It's just been a natural kind of flow, which is awesome. Because it's a lot of us just sharing stories, and those stories aren't just, sometimes they're hard and sometimes they're emotional, but sometimes they're about resilience and strategies of how to get forward. And I guess what has grown out of that is I certainly wasn't a business person at all before my stroke.
Yeah.
I think what has become really where I've sort of carved my own way into what my role is in Genyus is being the leader, the founder and leader of a social enterprise that delivers, you know, multiple multimodal strategies in which we create spaces of empowerment, connection, and emotional resilience through story sharing. And so to answer that question about different hows and different ways to get amongst the Genyus crew, is that we use social media. We have a website, but we have multi access points. So at the moment, something that's come and it's having a lot of strength in empowering peeps is our Genyus Coffee Club, which is
It's awesome. It's awesome. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love it.
It's an amazing opportunity regularly with other peer hosts to have like a peer hosted and a peer led chat from wherever you are, whatever time zone, doesn't matter, but amongst your peeps, just to know that you're not alone and to know that you have a community of peeps, of other geniuses, who get you and who get it. And it's not just about whether you've walked or rolled through the exact same experience. It's about that desire to connect and to know that you are the hero of your story. And we do everything we can now to deliver many, many different products and services. That's what we're developing to really create that community peer-led atmosphere. And we're seeing, a huge. I still feel like we're really just at the beginning, even though we're a few years in. It all started here, and it still will be here. It's wherever you are right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's a way to get amongst people who understand you and who don't want to don't want to unpack and live in trauma. We want to get together and navigate through the journey. It's all about the journey. It's not about the destination. Though we're all going towards awesome stuff, it's about going along together. So that's the essentially the power of Genyus.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I don't know if you caught my my intro.
I heard a little bit. I was a bit late.
Yeah, but essentially, we're as I stated already, we're kind of on the same path. I started this whole thing, to let people know that they're not alone,
Absolutely.
and I'm here to walk hand in hand with you.
Yeah.
I chose to get on this platform and share my testimony with the entire world,
Yeah.
and I haven't held back on anything. I've shared what happened to me. I've shared about my mom's alcoholism. I've shared some pretty deep stuff, because, and the reason why I shared this stuff is because, I felt like people can relate to it. And when people relate to what you're going through on a personal level, that helps bring them out of, if they're in that, space that they need to get out of, that helps bring them out, say, hey, you know what? I can get through this.
Absolutely.
Because Cal's been through it. Mark's been through it. Look where he's at now, So,
Yeah. I think, Mark, something that's so beautiful, and thanks so much for saying that, because I feel like that's the nugget of gold within each of us. I think we all have an infinite amount of stories, and if we can harness the power of story and use it as currency to connect, what you just described is exactly what I guess we've now got a research team, which is awesome. We've got an amazing professor who leads our research team. We're taking an evidence-based approach in everything we do so that we can measure it to go, does story sharing, does peer-led empowerment, peer-to-peer connection, does looking at recovery through the social lens have an impact on someone's quality of life? Yes.
Yeah, it has to.
Yeah, and I think the thing that you just said, which is something that I say so much when I get opportunities to talk at conferences or wherever, different survivor groups or health professionals, is that your story, whether you're a health professional, an ally, a clinician, a researcher, a survivor, someone with that valued expert lived experience, your story can unlock someone else's prison. You know, it's not my quote, but it's absolutely like, you know, share your testimony, because you are the doorway. And I think that when we can live and breathe that, that's the good infection. You know, the proliferation of candid narrative is just so imperative, particularly for those who feel isolated after trauma.
100,000,000,000%.
Yes.
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah. Cal, do you have any concluding thoughts for our community?
You're a badass. If you're watching, you are the boss. I don't mean that. I mean, it is. It's like snap. You know, our mantra with Genyus is, because as you saw, like I had I'm so bad at this, sorry, my eye patch, but I also where am I going? We've got a few. Oh, sorry, that's the back of my head. That's going a little bit back in time, but the injury is pretty significant. But if you, even on our website, I definitely would suggest come and join us. Like, be part of the posse. You're a genius. Our website, www.genyusnetwork.com. I guess something that we share a lot about. We've got a lot of different content. Some of that is, as you can see here, it's research-based content, which is all about engaging with our researchers and our allied friends in that space. But also something that's really important, I feel, is I'm just going to get here. We've got a lot of topic talks as well, because I think that when we talk about different topics, oh, sorry, I've clicked the wrong thing. I think so much emphasis can be placed on stuff that's not lived experience generated. And I think, you know, even people that you've interviewed, Mark, before, there's such a wealth of experience that when we own our stories and wear that story with pride, we not only unlock someone else's prison, but we can have a measurable impact on the broader society, because we create awareness about that lived experience. And also our own mental health, our own well-being is more optimized. It's more charged. There's a sense of purpose. We really believe that when we use powerful, mobilized community, and when we use peer-led empowerment, it's imperative for recovery, and more broadly, fundamental for humanity to come together. And I think even right now, Mark, as you said before, like COVID has only highlighted this. But the one thing I wanted to say about, you asked me something about how sort of people get involved, and someone, I think it was Don. Did Don say? Oh, that's great. Can I say something that Don has said in this, Mark?
Yeah.
Don just said, "Journey, not the destination, but you need determination that unlocks the doorway." Absolutely.
See that?
Yeah, absolutely. Look at that. And I think there's that thing about understanding we've got to do it together. We've got to partner in the process. It's like, you know, I really believe that through community connection, come in a coffee club. You know, someone said before that when, you know, I think that we have to, coffee club, you know, genyusnetwork.com/coffee-club. You can find it on the website, but sign up, and even find us on Facebook. You can register for a coffee club. There's a lot of other people, you know, you'll probably see Mark. Mark will eventually be hosting.
I'm
but
down.
that's the thing. It's like coffee clubs are another way through the social lens to connect, become empowered. You know, and if you do have a struggle, because I think at the moment, the world, we all know we're having a pretty unified experience right now of isolation. So getting with your peeps, and that may be people with a similar lived experience. It might be people with expertise in another area. When you want to connect and you want to own your story, it's just fundamental for our sense of belonging. So, you know, I absolutely implore anyone that is watching, if you're watching and you are feeling isolated, or you are feeling like I want to, reach out to Mark and feel like, how can I become more determined? Just like with Mark, we've got topic talks on perspective, on resilience. Eventually we'll have one on determination featuring Mark, because it's about going, how do we get the wisdom of that expert lived experience? And you, sitting wherever you are right now, undoubtedly have that wisdom. So please come and share it with us.
Yeah, 100%. Now, Salud says that the show's been powerful. Thank you, Mark and Caleb. Hey, we're glad to sit here. As Cal has been, saying the power of testimony, is one that, cannot be discouraged. And our Salute also asked where I'm from. I'm from Menifee, California, which is right by Temecula, California.
I love that. I've never heard of those places ever. I'm getting awareness in this. I'm feeling determined. I'm feeling more informed.
Right. And George is asking how much I paid you to be on my show. George is the guy. George is the guy from Australia. The other guy from
George,
the other Aussie guy.
Caleb at genyusnetwork.com, my friend.
Right. All right, George. All right, Cal.
Thank you so much.
Hey, I appreciate you, man. You crushed it. You're a natural. Give me the jazz hands one more time.
Come on, we're playing that. I've slightly shifted, but we can give it a jazz hands.
There we go. All right. So, as always, I always conclude my show with a prayer. So let's go ahead and do it. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for bringing Cal into my life and having him come on and share his testimony and his wisdom with the community that we have, so they can gain inspiration from his testimony and gain another perspective on life. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you for your words, my friend.
Thank you so much for coming on, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And I hope if anyone wants to get in touch, feel free to hit me up or check out our website and sign up and get amongst it.
I will. I upload these videos to YouTube, so I will put all your information in the description.
Bring it on, and keep watching Mark. He does good stuff. If you want determination, he's the boss.
Thanks, brother. There it is. All right, man. Take it easy, brother.
See you later. Thank you, everyone.